My name is Era, and I'm the host of the Tamil Creator Podcast. I chat with creators from all over the world to share their stories and discuss hot topics in a way that I hope inspires, educates, and entertains you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Tamil Creator. I'm your host, Era. Today, joining me all the way from Australia is Sujan Selven, and he is the founder of Upcycled Tech, as well as Space Group and a bunch of other things. But, we're going to focus on a few things today. So thank you, Sujan, for making time to connect.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, Sujan, as a father now, I always like to kind of revisit, I guess, early childhood or those formative teenage years that kind of really impact, those decisions you make or the decisions your parents make that kind of help you become who you are today. So obviously you've been like a serial entrepreneur, starting at, a number of things I talked about Space Group, but you did a few other things like Event Boss and Jarl. So what do you think in your childhood or your like formative teenage years helped you become an entrepreneur today?
I think is the opportunities are like in the childhood, I think I didn't have so much of opportunities back where I'm from. But as soon as we moved to Australia, my mum started a catering business as soon as she moved into it, and then she did really well. And she had this mindset of starting business, doing things on her own. She was a big influence on my side. And then I kind of worked on kind of problem solving. Like there's a problem and there's a solution needed, and then that's how a lot of my startups started with Space Group. Me and my brother was working for someone else, and then my brother had this idea, why don't we start this? And then I just jumped on board, and initially it was his idea, and then we worked together, and then we worked on it, and I think we're doing well.
That's awesome. You mentioned obviously where you kind of grew up. You didn't get a lot of opportunities until you moved to Australia. So tell us a bit about your childhood, like in terms of where you grew up, what that was like, and how things changed for you once you got to Australia.
Yeah, so I was born in Sarcho in the northern province of Jaffna. Then I moved to Vanni area where the war affected, under the tiger controlled area. So we worked with limited resources because the government was restricting a lot of the things that coming into the tigers controlled area. So we had limited resource, but people were very creative in terms of doing things like, even with limited resource, they were able to do so many creative things that you could see up until 2009. So I think we were grown up in that mindset. Everything is possible, even if there's, you don't have access to so many of other things that you could access when you get into the government controlled area. I think that's played an influence in like my part and my family's life. And then as soon as we moved into Australia, and then I looked at problems there and here, and how they solve that problem. And then how then if there's a issues there, like for example when I started Event Boss, people were still selling tickets manually. And sometimes I end up going to 2 or 3 events on the same weekend. People trying to do, or the event organizer trying to do to try to good things back at home, but failing to get the number of people coming to events. So the initial plan was to create a event calendar, a Tamil community can communicate together so they don't double up or duplicate multiple events on the same day. So that's how Event Boss started. So it's like addressing some of the problem and problem solving it. So that's kind of influenced my decision making when I started things.
That's interesting. You kind of mentioned, because I know, like you said, it makes sense when you see a problem, you try to find a solution. I'm the same way. But a lot of people, when they see a problem, they acknowledge it's there. They're like, oh, it'd be great if there's something that does this. But most people just don't end up doing anything about it. But you actually ended up trying to do something with Event Boss and Jarl. Why do you think that was? Or I guess it's just maybe nature, or like, I'm just curious because you make it sound like it's easy.
Yeah.
But a lot of people I see, they talk about problems, but nobody comes up with solutions. So
I mean at this stage, yes, I do like, people like to complain, but then if you all complain, you need to have a solution as well. Like I really admire Jack Ma. Like when Jack Ma says that, it's good to have problems. If you have a problem, then you can you need a solution, and people looking for a solution. So admire what he says. And I think for me, it's like if I have a complaint or if I have a problem, then I need I need to also give a solutions to it. Or, it doesn't have to be a perfect solution, but have some sort of solution or what you expect as an outcome or a solution, a problem solving. And then I pitch that to, a few of my friends or like, people in the industry and get their input and then try and expand it. So when I started, event boss and talked about calendar, it was initially like an event calendar thing. It wasn't a ticket platform. Then we changed it to a ticketing platform. So it's built onto it as well. But I like to, when there's a problem, I think it's, or complaint, I think it's always good to have a some sort of solution that you want to address that as well. And that's how a lot of my decision came through. And I don't know where that came from, but I think I like to provide a solution as well when I have a problem.
Yeah, I love that you said that because for me, again, I think maybe it's built over time as well. But when somebody tells me a problem's hard, I'm like, that's usually a sign of a good opportunity because
Mm,
in business it's kind of defensibility. If the problem is hard to solve, that means that you have some kind of defensibility or moat, so somebody else can't compete with you. So I agree with you. I guess your brain kind of shifts over time as you see more and more problems and you solve
mm,
those problems. So you kind of talked about kind of you where you grew up in Sri Lanka and kind of I think that ties into your work with Upcycled Tech. So I absolutely love what you're doing. And with Upcycled Tech for people listening, I'll let Sujan kind of explain what it is. But at a high level, it's collecting secondhand tech devices and donating them back to people in Northeast Sri Lanka. So I guess my question is, what made you start this, and what's the impact you're hoping the organization has?
Thank you. So with Upcycle Tech, so I was stuck in Sri Lanka for almost 1 year. I wouldn't say I was stuck. I made the decision to stay there, take a break. In 2020, when I was there, as you know, with the COVID, a lot of the things like, lockdown, people were working from home or, doing things remotely. And where I was staying, I was actually in northern province in Thondamnara, in Keredawal. The actual location was Keredawal, near Point Petro. Um, what I saw is that people were stuck at home and they couldn't like go to work or work remotely. The reason being is that compared to Australia or Canada, a lot of the houses were not connected to a computer device. A lot of the people did not have a fixed line internet at home for them to do anything from remotely. And then also I saw kids at home that they were normally would have been at school or somewhere, but they were like stuck at home. They get bored, and it kind of influences all sort of things. So my at that time I had two of my friends in Australia, Dushani and Brenda. They're teachers at school and university. So I say reach out to them. Like I'm thinking of starting some remote learning through them teaching from here in Australia, and then I'll get a project on a computer, I had a laptop, and then we'll connect to a school with the internet connection. That's how the initial first project started. And when we did it, we had 54 students in that village were able to come, and we divided into 3 levels and started our first group. When I did that, and at that time I was also bored, so I started a YouTube channel, and then talked about what I'd done, and then I had people reaching out to me asking, can we do the similar thing in other villages? To give you some factual number, in Sri Lanka, it's only 14, like northern province, only 14 percentage. According to 2018 Sri Lankan census, says that this many people have a fixed device at home, and only 12% have a fixed internet connection, which is a very low number.
This episode is sponsored by nobody. That's right, nobody. So if you could be kind enough to hit that subscribe button, that would mean a lot to me.
Here in Australia, me, part of Space Group, we work in the telecommunication industry. Part of my project is to, connect the Australian network into fiber optics. And the project is worth around $50 billion, and the government is investing on it because there is a benefit. And I look at it in Sri Lanka, if we can connect the people with the computer and connectivity, that there's unlimited opportunities that we can create for them. That's starting like they can start providing virtual employment, or they can study online, or even doing like paying a bill or any sort of thing can be done. At the moment, it's not there. So my aim is to provide that opportunity or create that opportunity, and utilize that to in the benefit of the people there. Especially, I think us being in the diaspora, we have a very big population outside Sri Lanka that can solve some of their employment, education, and creating opportunity for the people back in Sri Lanka, and especially focusing Northeast area.
Yeah, that's such a, I think it's like something people forget, especially in a place like Australia, Canada, US, Europe. Internet connectivity is almost like a given. It's like it's been kind of developed for a while and you just it's just something you take for granted. But in
Yeah.
certain places in the world, like in Sri Lanka, there's a very intelligent, smart, hardworking population. And in this digital era, if they did have connectivity and like a device, like you said, there's a lot of opportunities for them and they already have the will and desire to kind of do something. So all they really don't have is the infrastructure, which is pretty wild, but also I guess like because of everything that's kind of happened in Sri Lanka, it makes sense that there was no real concentrated effort to put in the infrastructure to help people in the Northeast connect to the internet, which would open up a whole world to them, literally, right? So no, thank you for doing this work. I mean, it's I think it's amazing, and yeah, I guess for me as well is I upcycled tech. I know it's a social enterprise. Is this a nonprofit, or do you have plans to turn this into a for-profit with the social goal in mind, or like how are you gonna structure this?
So when we started, it was more of a donation kind of structure, and then after 2020, we changed into like a not-for-profit profit charity. Now it's changed into a social enterprise. The aim and objective will still be to provide devices and connect individual houses or any startups. The way we look into do is to I've recently participated a social enterprise competition here, and we got some $10,000 funding. So the aim is to create some sort of revenue stream from here so that it can run for a longer term. So even we don't want to rely on donation moving forward, but donation is welcome. But I think we can't keep rely on donation. I think that's how the world is moving forward. So the way we look into create a revenue stream is by providing e-waste services to businesses, and because we have a social impact on part of it, and we also now decided to, I mean, we were doing it unofficially. What we're planning to do is also to provide in Australia as well. There's financially, socially backward people that need access to devices, especially newly arrived migrants community or refugee communities as well. So we also focusing on that. So businesses, we expecting that to use our service and then pay a small fees that will be then put towards operational cost and upgrading the devices. So moving forward, it will more become a social enterprise for with the social impact.
That makes sense. The I think the big challenge for nonprofits is that sustainability because a lot of time gets taken up by fundraising or like asking for donations. So I like that you kind of made that decision. Obviously, you can't do this by yourself. So
Yeah.
how have you kind of put together a team? You know, like I know there's a pretty good list of impressive advisors as well, but how has a team for Upcycle Tech come together?
Yes, I'm lucky to have a really great team, especially Nero James. I worked with him few other projects and even with Event Boss. So when I had this idea, I reached out to him straight away because he's really good with those things. And I think the good thing I have like a good circle of friends who I can reach out to when I need something, and when I identify they have the skill set, and then most of the time it just work out. All you have to do is to ask them. So when I reached out to Nero, and he was so keen to get involved, and he wanted to do something back to back at home as well. So he got on board and he brought few good advices into the community, and then I also had friends in my circle who I was able to bring as well. I think in that lesson, I think sometimes if you need something, if you need a solution, all you have to do, I think, just like reach out, ask. And sometimes they might not identify themselves, but when you identify someone have some sort of skill set, and I think it's a recognition for them and acknowledgement for them as well. So for anyone that listening, and if you ever have some ideas, reach out to anyone that you could get help from. Yeah.
Love it. You know, we kind of talked about like the social enterprise, which is Upcycle Tech. How about, space? Like we talked about a few other ones like Event Boss,
Yeah.
etc. But I'm interested in Space Group as well. Like I know it's called, I think it was might have been called something else before, but uh, space group, like, what prompted you start this business? Like, how did you and your brother identify this opportunity, and like, how did you like get your first project? I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, it's actually happened coincidentally. So what happened was one of my friend, his name is Tiru. He he started this business, and then he wanted a supervisor to manage his team contract. So he asked me to go, and at that time I didn't know about this. I mean, I heard about the project, but I didn't know what was my role and what was I going to do. So it was more to manage teams and stuff. So and my brother somehow ended up being in the same area, looking after another contractors, and he was kind of doing the similar role. And then that project ended, and then we finished and we came back home, and then there's another project opened up. So and then my brother's like, oh, let's put a company together to make this happen. So that's how we started. It was kind of started through a friend of mine, and I think also, like, looking back at it, I think, like, when someone provide opportunity, take it up and challenge yourself, and I think that leads to somewhere else, something into something else. So and that's how space group came into place.
So what does space group do?
Like I mentioned, the telecommunication project that I work, it's called National Broadband Network. So it's a government project. In 2007, the government decided to roll out 96%, I think, of the Australian household with the fiber optic directly connected to the house. And it was meant to be a 10-year project. So what we do is we provide civil, electrical, and telecommunication services. So we do the network side of it, and then into the houses, and then we also provide electrical. My future, moving forward, we look into get into traffic signals and railway network signaling side of it. So that's my future goal.
So that's kind of, I guess, your company is involved in the physical laying and construction, not construction, but like the best way to describe it is, I guess, the instruction and installation of the uh, physical wires and
Yes,
around that to protect that infrastructure for internet.
yes,
Yeah, I mean, I often hear or talk to people that kind of get on the software side of things, but
yeah,
this the physical hardware part of it, like you said, whenever I think hardware, anything hardware, physical, there's always challenges involved, right? Like, in my head, I could be completely wrong, but like
yeah,
getting the right staff or people trained on that, dealing with physical, the materials or things that you need to actually do the work. There could be delays there, project managing that. So, uh, I guess what made you decide that this was something you want to pursue and like continue doing? Because I don't think this is new. You've been doing this for, I think, 6, 7 years now. It is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. To be honest, when I started it, I wasn't sure where it's going to take me, but as soon as I started working around the project, and then I also did a telecommunication cert for engineering course on that as well. So then it kind of opened up, and then I looked at what else can I make out of it, because the project, like I said, initially was 10 year. So then we needed like a exit plan as well. So what the question was, what do we do after this project ended? Then and then I also was looking at how we can transfer some of the skill set that we have now into the next business. So that's why we decided to. So initially it was um, communication and civil. Then we added the electrical part of it because it comes together, and then we also looked into like what other opportunities. So then I looked at the traffic signaling side. So installing the signaling box, the traffic set box, all sort of thing. And then for the longer term, and especially in Australia, we're going to have a massive rail networking infrastructure soon. So then I also looked at what's the opportunity for the future, and then made that decision. And then I've now recently met up with a mentor who's guiding me in that path to get there. So initially it was just jumped in, but then like looked at it, studied and talked to friends, see what sort of other opportunities there, and then made a decision based on that.
Did you know that every time you left a 5 out of 5 review for this podcast, a Tamil parent lets their child pursue a career in the creative arts? Okay, that's probably not true, but if there's a chance that it is, do you really want to jinx it? Leave a review. Do it for the young creative in you. Like when I look at B2B, like, if you're selling, like, I guess in this case, your customer happens to be the government, but I guess in other cases, it might not be the government. Maybe it's going to be private sector. How do you go about getting these, like, I guess the sale, but I guess it's more of a contract Because I imagine it's not something that's kind of publicly listed, or like, how do you find these opportunities, and like how long is the sales cycle?
It's I think it's one thing is like keep eye on like what sort of projects opportunities are coming out, and then also having that network circle from that projects thing. So you keep reaching out to them, tell them what you do, keep having that communication, and then look at ways to get into that project. So having the right people who already doing some sort of work or working for that companies. That's how a lot of my projects that I got into is worked out. So having a good network and having a good relationship worked really well, and also putting your brand and company out there to making sure that people know this is what you do, and if you need someone to do this particular job, so you can reach out to us.
And how do you go about finding talent or people to kind of help, I guess, do the work that you're doing? Like, is that also just networking, or like do you go to the schools that kind of teach people these skills that are required to kind of complete the projects you work on?
Surprisingly, like personally, like I have advertised and got people, but so far in my like in with Space Group and even back in Sri Lanka, a lot of the time people reach out to us and say like, I'm looking for a work, can I, um, can I like join your company? Then the way I select people is identify what their strength is, then put them in a position rather than I tell them, can you do this? I think that way that I get them to be more involved in what they're doing, then I get them to involved in something they're not interested in. I think that worked really well. So at the moment, so far, like yeah, at a time we had 45 people working for us, and all of them were like people were reaching out to us, and also I personally believe in like if I can look after my employees in a good way and like they're happy at my workplace. If I wake up tomorrow morning and do I want to be at this workplace, and I think they should be feel like yeah I want to be here and do some work. So I think if I can set that space environment, I think it will be easy to get talents, and I think people will reach out to you. Then you have a very more stronger space to work with. Then you put someone in some place where they're not really comfortable with.
That's great. I think it makes sense. I guess a lot of people, I guess companies, I feel like don't do that, where they more so are like trying to tell people what to do, versus I like your approach of what are you interested in, what's your strength, and let me set you up for success based on that. I love that. I guess I see a lot of synergies between, I guess, the work you do with Space Group and Upcycle Tech, especially kind of the bigger vision with Upcycle Tech of number one, like maybe eventually actually providing the infrastructure in Sri Lanka to kind of enable people that don't have access to it to connect, and obviously giving them the devices, and then giving them the education to use the devices to connect to the internet to have access to these opportunities. So I guess in the future, what percentage of the time do you, I guess, want to spend between the two? Or I know you might have other endeavors as well, but between Space Group and Upcycle Tech, like how do you envision your time and percentages being spent?
So my plan was by end of this year to have a self-running business Space Group. So I have like without me it should be operating it, but it should be here to like to overseas and bring new projects. But I think it's going to be pushed back for another 1 or 2 years. So by in 2 years time, I want to have a Space Group that running on its own, and that I have a minimum involvement on it. And then I want to spend more time back in Sri Lanka where I can focus village by village. I think if I can have a successful model in one village, and if I can show the people the advantage of having this connectivity, having this skill set, the opportunity that will open up, then I think it will be easier for me to implement that in other places as well. Overall, I think there's people that like-minded me or the way I see things. There's very like the youth. I can like capture them and work with them, but I think to get the overall impact on it, I think I need to work village by village, and that's my future goal. Like I want to spend more time there, but I think in order for me to do that, I need a financial stability, and I think Space Group will be providing that, and I need to work on to in order to do that. So sooner I get that financial stability, I want to go back and spend more time, but I expect this in 2 years time, hopefully. Otherwise, yeah. I mean, I love spending time back in Sri Lanka. It's just like, especially when you see someone progress, someone, made a change or they achieved something, and you played a part of it, and that's like a success for me. And if I can do more of that, I think that would be the happiest thing for me.
I guess if for Space Group in your entrepreneurial journey, I guess, but more recently, what's I guess a failure you've experienced during this journey, and like what did you learn from that?
I think like one failure that I learned, it's like with Yal, when we started up. I think financially, we were like on track or having a good accountant, doing things for you. I think that was a failure that I learned in Yal, and I think which I learned in a with a heavy price. But I think that also teach you in or prepare you for future with a bit more um, having that experience, and also know what you should not be doing it and what you should be doing or what you should be focusing on. So that's something I learned with a heavy price, but I think it's a good experience for me.
Yeah, that's one thing I've definitely learned. Don't cheap out on your accountant or lawyer because
Yeah,
don't save them dollars here. You'll lose
yeah,
thousands later. So pay for some good knowledge. I agree.
yes.
You seem like a guy that's kind of always looking to improve like your knowledge or skill. So like what kind of things do you do to do that?
So if I'm interested in something, I start to first do reading, get books. So I do. Like recently got addicted to audiobooks. So I listen to a lot of audiobook because I travel a lot. So in the vehicle, so I started listening to a lot of audiobook. I do short courses. So rather than jumping into like a some full length, lengthy course, I start to do like a short crash courses that helps me to understand. And if I'm keen on it, then I do further study. The other thing I do is try and talk to like-minded people, get mentorship. That's something I do as well. I like to learn hands-on, so I always like willing to like put myself out there, actually get a feel of it. So that's how for me, like sometimes if I don't do it, I don't feel it or I don't understand it. So sometimes I just have to get my hands on it. So that's how I get. And I also have a problem which is I get bored easily as well. So I need to keep myself like motivated with something new all the time. So that's a way for me to kind of keep myself like looking out for new things.
You obviously seem like a quite a busy guy with kind of, the projects you have on the go. Um, how do you, I guess, balance or like balance I mean, maybe balance is the wrong word, but how do you, yeah, I guess balance the rest of your life in terms of personal obligations, like whether it's health, family, other obligations outside of work, like how do you do that?
I won't say I'm perfect in balancing it, but I try and manage it. I try and put time and effort to prioritize. I think that's something I learned. What's important. Sometimes I did end up compromising it in personal and family, but I think sometimes it does become difficult. But I think it's also if you just stuck in one place, it's not good for you mentally. I think you need to have that. Um, what makes you motivated, what makes you keep going. You need that on the side in order for you to also progress on the other side of it. It could be family, personal, education, anything, or financially as well. But I mean, in my view, is that if I don't have that balance of, spending, for myself, for the family, and then financial and the things that I want to do, I might get stuck and I might not get motivated. I might not get the motivation. So for me, I think it's important to prioritize, but at the same time, it's also to do what you actually sometimes do what you like actually makes you happy as well. That keeps me going.
And if you had a chance to kind of, go back in a time machine and visit 16-year-old Sujan, like what would you tell him?
I would say like
Money can be hard to come by, but here's a $100 opportunity for you. Join my free newsletter for free exclusive content and a free chance to win $100 when I hold special draws. Did I mention that it's free?
try like do things. Just try anything. Like I mean, I think what in my mindset or even like in my family was like you kind of have a set like you just kind of there's like a book to or like a manual to follow. Rather, I would like even like to my kids in the future when I do have kids, I want to tell them like do what you want to do, but do it in a way that it doesn't impact other people. Like you don't want to hurt other people, but take all the risk and then whatever you think is the right thing, then take it forward. I think that's the best way that they have the best experience for themselves rather than I share my experience and implementing on someone else to try and become myself or don't want to see myself on someone else. I think they need to have their own personal experience and then from out of that, let them come out something. I think that will be more powerful.
And in terms of like looking forward, in terms of your personal legacy, in a few sentences, like how would you want to be remembered by your friends and family?
I want to be remembered as a action person rather than a talking person. I want to get things done rather than just talk.
Love it. That's kind of a good segue into the final part of the podcast. It's a fun speed round I like to call Creator Confessions. I'm
Okay,
basically gonna say a bunch of statements, and you're going to give me the first answer that pops to mind. Ready, Sujan?
okay.
Favorite Tamil food?
Appam,
Something that scares you.
snake.
Yeah, me too. Insecurity.
So I said,
Sorry.
just the last.
Insecurity that you have.
Ooh, insecurity. Can't think of it at the moment.
Favorite TV show you're watching.
Ooh, been a while since I watched a TV series. Yeah, it's actually been a while, but the last movie I watched is Jailer.
Uh, a place you're itching to travel to.
A place?
Yes.
Yeah. Ooh, a place.
I guess I can
I
say
probably would
like country. I should say like, but
I'll say country. I would say Fiji.
it's easy. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, a fellow Tamil creator that you want to give a shout out to.
I give it to Social Butterfly and Ash Kumar.
Favorite childhood memory.
We're going to in back in Vanilla, we go to like a tank that we have that it pumps out water, and we used to go and shower. So that's my favorite childhood memory. Like it's funny, like we went and back after 20 years, I went back to look at it. Back in the days when we were younger, it used to be like a massive thing, but now it just look like it's so small. But yeah, that's my childhood. It's right in front of my house as well. So
What do you like to do for work? Sorry, what do you like to do for fun outside of work?
play sports, rock climbing.
What was something that you purchased in the last couple of years that you've splurged on, but you have no regret about it?
My earpod.
Um, who would you love to have access to in your invisible personal council, meaning somebody that you wish you could talk to anytime, 24 hours a day to get advice?
One of my friend, his name is Babu.
What's a pet peeve of yours?
When people drinks coffee or tea and they make like very loud noises when they're sipping it.
Yes. Who is like a celebrity whose life you'd want to live for just 24 hours?
Uh, I would say Obama.
Obama, got it.
Yeah.
Um, if you knew that you were going to die tomorrow, a regret that you would have.
Not traveling enough.
What's a book you've read or a podcast you've listened to that's had an impact on you recently?
Uh,
Anytime. Doesn't have to be recent, anytime.
yeah. Recently read Outlier.
Outlier, okay, you just read that? Okay, got it. Have you read any of Malcolm Gladwell's other books or?
No, normally like I haven't like a picked choice of books or going by that. Something else, another audio book that I was listening to. I thought that was good. I was actually my uncle got me a book, Seven Love Language. I think that was interesting.
Yes, that's a good book as well. Um, what's a new belief, behavior, or habit that's improved your life?
I think learning to say no.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Somebody, I think I don't know where I listened to it, but saying yes to something means you're saying no to something else. So saying no is actually like a good, it's a powerful thing,
yeah,
like focus, right? Yeah. So
yeah. I heard that too. Yeah.
love it. And finally, what's a piece of advice that you'd give to your fellow aspiring Tamil creators out there?
I think like uh one thing is like if you have an idea, try it, ask for advice, do it. And then also, I think one other thing I would say is to focus on what you think that you could provide as a solution, than just another product or service.
Love it. Well, that's a good way to kind of end off the podcast, Sujan. Thanks for kind of jumping on. If someone's listening to this or inspired, they want to reach out to kind of connect on, one of the many projects you're working on. What's the best way for someone to reach out to you?
Well, if you can link my social media to the podcast, I think they can reach out to me. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Also, I'm launching my website soon because I have my council election coming up next year, September 2024. So I'm going to start my campaign 1 year ahead. So hopefully, I think next year I will get elected. So yeah, even if you're in Australia, if you want to help out, volunteer, or even if you have a question about any project or want to be part of it, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. And I guess to give you kind of an opportunity to quickly shout out for Upcycled Tech, is there anything you want to tell people that are listening that if they want to participate, donate, whatever you're kind of looking for, I'll give you 30 seconds to kind of make your ask here.
Yeah. So if at your workplace, if your company looking for e-waste provider with the social impact, reach out to Upcycle Tech. We don't just do this in Australia, but we also do it in Canada with partnership with Compute, likewise in Germany. So we are all over the place. So reach out to us.
Awesome. I'm inspired by the work you're doing, Sujan. So thanks again for jumping on. And for everyone listening, thank you guys as always for listening, providing feedback, etc. On to the next episode.
Thank you.